Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's going on? The Matt Bernier Show here on DRF TV, presented this week by our friends down at Keeneland Racecourse. Big day of racing at Keeneland today, and that's why, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that here we are. We've got big racing on a day like Friday. Weekday racing, graded stakes caliber, not usually the norm. You ever have a morning where anything that could go wrong goes wrong? That was me today. I got in here about 5 minutes ago, but I kept my calm. You know why? Because we've got 2 grade 1s on a Friday. We've got 3 graded stakes overall. The final Kentucky Oaks prep down at Oaklawn Park and one of those grade 1s. We're going to go over that. The Makers 46 Mile down at Keeneland this afternoon. If you're new to this show, my name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. You can check this thing out, live.drf.com and livestream.com if you want to follow along live. We do this every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you check it out, podcast version, you have YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, video.drf.com. Plenty of ways for you to check this show out, as well as social media, Twitter and Facebook. We stream this thing on the Daily Racing Forum handles. So we've got a lot of things to get to. We've got graded stakes going on tomorrow. We'll dive into that later on. And again, we've got 2 graded stakes races that we're going to go over here today. One of them is a grade 1. One of them is a grade 3. I'm skipping over the Apple Blossom simply because it looks like it's a 1 or 2 horse race on paper. And like I said, could be 1 depending on how you want to look at it. So we've got 2 races we'll go over today, 2 for tomorrow. But let's start off with something that happened last Saturday, and it made me start thinking a little bit overall. As far as the landscape is concerned, we've had a lot of big things happen recently in racing. Obviously, we had American Pharoah win the Triple Crown the first time in 37 years, a couple years ago. And recently, anyway, we've had Arrowgate come through and break through and just shatter all sorts of different records that many people didn't think would ever be broken, or performances that we never thought we would be able to see. A horse like California Chrome, a 2-time horse of the year in 2 out of 3 years, and 1 year that he didn't win it was simply, well, one, he had American Pharoah, but also he was injured and he didn't really get to strut his stuff. So we've had a lot of good things happen recently. But I was thinking even bigger picture, over the past 10 years, it feels like we have had a number of unbelievable fillies and mares come through, all across the country. And again, being someone that hasn't been into the game nearly as long as some of the lifers, I started to wonder, are we in sort of a golden age of fillies and mares? And what I mean by that is, going back 10 years, we have a beautiful thing here in the Daily Racing Forum offices. It's called the internal system, where you can go through and look up all sorts of different stats and numbers historically. You can go back a number of years. And I have right here these 2 sheets of paper. If you're watching and listening, you can hear them. These are the top 100 Beyer speed figures for fillies and mares over the past 10 years at a distance of a mile or greater. Now, I understand included in here are some 1-turn miles, but I was trying to find the sort of route races. I didn't want to, and that's no disrespect to the sprinters, but I wanted to see, route-wise, who some of the fastest horses were over the past 10 years, filly and mare perspective. And you have all of the big names. You have Rachel Alexandra, you have Zenyatta, you have Blind Luck, you have Havre de Grace, who I think gets lost in the shuffle very easily, where she shouldn't. Some of her credentials and accolades are really noteworthy, particularly beating the boys in the Grade 1 Woodward. She's only the second filly or mare to do so behind Rachel Alexandra. You've had Beholder, who we saw what she was able to do. A couple of Breeders' Cups, 3 of them actually, under her belt, 2 distaffs and a Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. Stellar Wind, who we'll see this afternoon in the Apple Blossom. She's going to go off as a heavy, heavy favorite. It just continues to play into the idea that we've had some unbelievable fillies and mares. Royal Delta, unfortunately, she passed away earlier this year, but we know what she was capable of doing on her best day. She was an unbelievable talent, and let's not forget about horses like Songbird, who is a recent sort of filly and mare, as well as Groupie Doll. And everyone likes to talk about what Curlin did on the racetrack. Let's not forget he lost to a filly in the Belmont Stakes and Rags to Riches. So the past 10 years, we have had a number, and only a handful of them. I'm sure there are plenty that I've missed, and if I did miss them, feel free to fire away at me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. But it got me thinking, because last Saturday, I think we saw a tremendous, tremendous talent. I know this 3-year-old campaign, this 3-year-old season, we've all been enamored, and rightfully so, with Unique Bella. She has been nothing short of outstanding. We're going to take a look. This is the stretch run of her effort in the Santa Isabel. Michael Rona from the top of the lane.
Smith hasn't asked Unique Bella for anything yet. She leads 3 lengths. Left-handed whip from Talamo on Abel Tasman, and she's coming after Unique Bella. Unique Bella being tackled by Abel Tasman, and Unique Bella now feels the whip from Smith at the 16th pole, immediately responds. The threat from Abel Tasman is subsiding, and Unique Bella, after having to be livened up briefly at the 8th pole, takes the centre. Isabel 2.5 lengths.
Brilliantly talented, brilliantly talented. I mean, to the point where people were making, and I think rightfully so, the comparison last year, and I know it sounds initially at face value crazy, making the comparison between Unique Bella and Songbird because of Hollendorf, because of Mike Smith, but also because of what they've accomplished in such a short period of time, and they were going to be the heavy favorites for the Kentucky Oaks, and then unfortunately each one of them had their hiccups and they never actually got there, and it doesn't sound like Unique Bella is going to the Oaks, but you never know, things could change, and there have been whispers here and there. But bigger point, another tremendously talented filly in Unique Bella, and it just, oh boy, it seems like we just keep having one after the other, and we thought she would run the table and dominate the 3-year-old fillies and mares, or fillies I should say. And then all of a sudden Paradise Woods shows up for Richard Mandela, and it's fitting enough that Mandela sends Beholder off last year. She retires on a winning note. She gets the Breeders' Cup Distaff in a hard-fought battle with Songbird, and it sounds all well and good. And now Mandela, maybe things will be a little bit quiet in the barn, but no. He unveils Paradise Woods, and last week was her graded stakes debut, and boy, was it ever a debut. Mike Arona from the top of the lane, Santa Anita Oaks.
From it is well, and Abel Tasman on the extreme outside, getting forced very wide, 8 lengths off the lead. Paradise Woods has slipped away by 6 lengths. The others are in a line at the 8th pole, with Abel Tasman running home fairly well into second. But the masterful Mandela has produced Paradise Woods at start number 3 to a dazzling victory in the Santa Anita.
That was an electric performance. I don't care what your overall feelings are. If you believe in her going forward to the Oaks, you can't deny that performance right there that we just saw and listened to was really, really strong, no matter how you want to chop it up. And the reason I bring up sort of the golden age, I was curious. Paradise Woods earned a 107 Beyer speed figure last Saturday afternoon. A 107 in her 3rd lifetime start, first time going 2 turns. In the last 10 years, there have only been a handful of horses that have Beyered faster than her, filly and mare-wise, and many of them were older horses. And the ones that weren't, that were 3-year-olds, we're talking all-timers. We're talking Rachel Alexandra. Rachel's name pops up on this list a number of times in her 3-year-old campaign, arguably one of the greatest 3-year-old campaigns, male or female, ever, considering she beat the boys a number of times, she beat older horses. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see her in the Breeders' Cup, but I mean, Paradise Woods is not that far behind from a Beyer speed figure standpoint to some of the, I mean, we're talking about names like Rachel. We're talking about Zenyatta. We're talking about Havre de Grace, Royal Delta, Stellar Wind, Beholder, Groupie Doll, and Rags to Riches Untappable. I mean, all these fillies right there. And Paradise Woods, now her name is right in the midst of all of them. I'm not suggesting she's going to turn into them, but it takes a pretty special talent to be able to do something like we saw last Saturday. And it's just a tantalizing thought that once Unique Bella gets together, hopefully Paradise Woods stays sound and continues on, that at some point we could have a matchup between these two. And who's to say this doesn't begin a rivalry like we saw a couple of years ago with Blind Luck and Havre de Grace, where they just threw it down each and every time they faced off with one another. Really, you never got a clunker at either one of them. They showed up, they ran their race. We can only be so lucky if that happens. But the bigger point for me, I think we are in a really special time as far as fillies and mares are concerned over the past 10 years or so. You've had a number of unbelievable talents, Hall of Fame-worthy talents, and maybe we have 2 more Hall of Famers at some point way down the road. They've got a lot to do before we get to that point, but boy, their early starts to their careers certainly indicates that maybe the Hall of Fame could be at the end of the line for those two. We're going to take a break here on the Matt Bernier Show. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to come back. We're going to take a look and see how we did last week in a couple of races, namely Triple Crown Kentucky Derby preps, the final big ones in New York, New York, Kentucky, and Southern California. And then when we come back after that, we'll dive into some races. 2 from Friday, 2 from Saturday, previews on the Matt Bernier Show. Stay with us.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Ladies and gentlemen of Cincinnati, clear your dance cards, because this is an invitation from Jack. Jack says the best business to get into is monkey business. Jack says once in a lifetime can happen every night. Damn the torpedoes and tomorrow morning. Prepare to live it up, live it loud, and relive it all over late night chili three-way. Because Cincinnati, this is really happening.
Here's Machono.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
12:11 on the east, 9:11 on the west. The Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. Let's take a look back and see how we fared last week. And we went over 3 of the major Kentucky Derby preps, the final ones in New York, Kentucky, and Southern California. Again, these were the final big ones, the final major ones, as far as the Kentucky Derby is concerned. Let's start off with the Bluegrass by our presenting sponsor this weekend, our friends at Keeneland Racecourse. Going into it, I think a lot of people thought that it was the most talented race, maybe even the most pivotal race going forward toward the first Saturday in May. You had all the heavy hitters. You had McCracken, you had Taproot, you had J-Boy Zecco, you had Practical Joke. You name it, they were there. I thought the most likely winner by a long shot was McCracken, and I say by a long shot, even though I thought it was going to be a tighter odds disparity than I think it ultimately ended up being. I thought a live long shot was Wild Shot because it didn't look like there was a lot of speed signed on. And guess what? All the horses I just named, I didn't name the winner in a 7-horse field. Kurt Becker from the top of the lane.
Second, McCracken third, Taproot fourth on the outside, J-Boy's Echo in fifth. Here's McCracken storming up on the outside. IRAP is fighting on, and Practical Joke is in between those two. Final furlong of the Toyota Bluegrass. IRAP with the lead. Practical Joke giving all he's got. IRAP 31-1 wins the Toyota Bluegrass with Julian Leperoux aboard.
I don't know what to say, honestly. The racetrack at Keeneland certainly played to his advantage. When Wild Shot just packed it in badly, and I don't know what the situation was there. There was 0 horse with Wild Shot. IRAP took over. Leperoux got into him early and often, and I think that was the right move. You saw him never change leads until actually after the wire on the gallop out. He got the job done, and he just adds to a very chaotic Kentucky Derby picture. You saw Practical Joke. He really, really tried. I thought it was a good effort, all things considered. He was just sort of against the grain with the way the track was playing, and also if you are in agreement with me, and I know other people share this viewpoint as well, that maybe he doesn't really want to go this far. All things considered, a good effort, and I think he deserves to go on to the Derby. I don't like him going 1.25 miles, but he has done nothing wrong. As far as McCracken is concerned, I thought he ran deceptively well. I know a lot of people are disappointed that he faded down the lane and he flattened out. I thought Joel Rosario pinned him in going into the far turn on Practical Joke. He got shuffled back to last. Still put in a bid. If you believe that it was speed friendly that day at Keeneland, then you know what, he was against the grain a little bit there, and he had every right to flatten out down the lane. That was his first start since the beginning of February. I have no problem with the effort at all. Actually, I'm quite interested in him coming out of it, and we'll see what happens tomorrow afternoon in the Arkansas Derby, and we'll just see how everyone trains going forward. But McCracken, I think there are a lot of positives to pull from that effort in the Bluegrass, despite him not winning. The clunker was Taproot, and who knows what happened. Hopefully he's okay. He never picked his feet up at any point. He was against the grain, certainly, but he just did 0 running whatsoever. And we always talk about it. If you're going to throw in a clunker, have it be earlier than later. It's really, really difficult for me to spin a positive for Taproot coming out of such a dud effort. He was terrible that day. Really hard for me to spin a positive and say, you know what, you should be running to the windows for Saturday in May and betting him with 2 fists. We'll find out how everything shakes down again. Obviously, we've got a big prep tomorrow afternoon in the Arkansas Derby, but going forward, the dust is starting to settle, and we'll have a full rundown as far as the final progress reports. That'll be going next Friday here on the Matt Bernier Show. Let's dive into the second race that we went over last weekend. It was the Wood Memorial here in New York at the Big A. It was an interesting race on paper. You had Battalion Runner shipping north for Todd Pletcher. You had Irish War Cry trying to right the ship. I thought going into it, he was the pick for me anyway. I thought the most likely winner, though, was Cloud Computing. And if you're looking for a live long shot, Stretch's Stone. He was a New York bred, and they, in fairness, they threw him to the wolves. I liked what he had done prior to that, but he unfortunately didn't pick his feet up. Again, going into it, thought the most likely winner was Cloud Computing. I liked Irish War Cry. Larry Colmus from the top of the lane.
Battalion Runner and Irish War Cry. 3/4 in 1:11 and 4. They're into the stretch. Irish War Cry on the outside's got a neck in front. Battalion Runner all out second on the inside. 4 lengths back to Cloud Computing. Irish War Cry's in front because they come to the final 16th. Battalion Runner's not going with him. Then comes Cloud Computing down to the line. Irish War Cry has won the Wood Memorial under Rajiv Maharaj.
It certainly was a rebound, at the very least, for Irish War Cry and Graham Motion. This is a horse that 2 starts prior at Gulfstream Park looked unbelievable, and he earned a 101 buyer, and that made him squarely one of the horses to beat as far as the Derby is concerned, and then he just threw in an absolute bomb. He was terrible in his start 2 back, and Motion didn't really know why. He didn't have any answers. My only thought is that he was just much too close to a pace that on paper, fractionally, it doesn't look that hot. But when you go through, particularly if you're going to use something like the Timeform US pace figures, that pace in that start 2 starts back at Gulfstream was off the charts. For the first half mile, I want to say it was somewhere in the vicinity of a 147. That's a giant pace rating. And he understandably tired. And I think that just goes to show that 3 Rules ran a giant race that day. You saw Practical Joke come back to flatter that a little bit. And then we saw Irish War Cry here. It's worth noting, Aqueduct was another bit of a wonky surface on Saturday afternoon. I thought inside was preferable. Speed certainly didn't hurt, but I think it was more inside than speed. Battalion Runner, I don't want to knock him. I mean, he was the bee's knees in Florida before they decided to kind of shift ground, bring Always Dreaming in for the Florida Derby and send him north. Battalion Runner ran just fine. He's got his points. It sounds like they're going to go on to the Kentucky Derby with him. Just adds to Pletcher's plethora of horses going forward. Unfortunately, One Liner is not going to be going, but we'll see another big one for Todd tomorrow afternoon. The Arkansas Derby. We'll talk about that after the next commercial break. Other than that, I thought Cloud Computing ran just fine. I know people are a little bit disappointed that he couldn't get there and he didn't come with any more of a run, but I don't think there was any issue with that. It was, as Dan Illman would like to say, it was inoffensive in my opinion. I thought it was a good effort. I don't think it was awesome, but it certainly was far from a disaster. I personally would put him away for a little while. I would bring him back at Saratoga. He's had a lot of racing in a short amount of time. He started 3 times, and I believe he debuted in late January. So thrown a lot at this horse in a short amount of time. I would give him some time off. He's an unbelievable talent, and he may be arguably one of the best 3-year-olds that we have in the entire division. You just don't want to break him and throw too much at him too soon. But you know what? Who knows better than I do about that kind of stuff? Chad Brown, and that's who his trainer is. Let's move on to the third and final prep that we went over last weekend, and I think undoubtedly the weakest of the 3. It was the Santa Anita Derby. I thought a vulnerable favorite going in was Iliad, just because I don't think he wants to go this far. And I thought a live long shot was Term of Art. It looked like the pace was going to be hot. The pace certainly was hot, but it kind of held together. Michael Rona from the top of the lane, Santa Anita Derby.
And Reach the Stars coming with very wide bids. Less than 3/16 to go. Battle of Midway from Royal Mo, and here comes Gormley, followed by Iliad and Reach the World. It's Battle of Midway trying to stave off the Moss pair. Royal Mo and Gormley battling strongly. Gormley looming into the lead now. Gormley takes the lead, and Gormley wins the Santa Anita Derby, a half length. The Battle of Midway. Royal Mo.
Gormley gets it done in, let's just say, weak fashion. He gets an 88 buyer in victory. You saw Iliad come on a little bit at the end to run 5th, so I suppose that was a positive. He went off as the 3-1 favorite. But the fact that he was even making up ground late, and I don't believe he wants to go that far, to me that's just an indictment on that entire field. Battle of Midway, as well as Royal Mo, they were out there as part of that just insane pace. And they were still there at the end of the wire. They were only beaten by about a half length and a length combined. So it's hard for me to speak very positively about the Santa Anita Derby. You do have a couple of horses, though, that have points, and they're going to go on with it. And Gormley, you know what? He deserves to go on with it. This is now a multiple Grade 1 winner, a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old, and now a Grade 1 winner as a 3-year-old. I kind of feel like he just continues to run the same race. Sometimes it's good enough, sometimes it's not. We'll find out. Maybe he's one that'll offer some value because everyone and their brother shares the same opinion that the San Antonio Derby was a bit of a dumpster fire. We'll find out going forward. Again, maybe some of these horses move forward out of the race and they train well over the surface at Churchill Downs. Those are the big three. The final big preps in their own jurisdictions last Saturday. We have one final big Kentucky Derby prep. That's going to be happening tomorrow afternoon in Hot Springs, Arkansas, in the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. We'll go over that as well as 2 stakes races today on Friday and 1 extra one tomorrow afternoon. The Matt Bernier Show presented by Keeneland. Stay with us.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome.
California
To
Chrome.
California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Ladies and gentlemen of Cincinnati, clear your dance cards, because this is an invitation from Jack. Jack says the best business to get into is monkey business. Jack says once in a lifetime can happen every night. Damn the torpedoes and tomorrow morning. Prepare to live it up, live it loud, and relive it all over late night chili three-way. Because Cincinnati, this is really happening.
Here's Machono.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
9:22 on the East, 9:22 on the East, 12:22 on the East, 9:22 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter, Facebook if you're following along on social media. Again, podcast, you've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. An interesting show this week simply because, as far as the handicapping is concerned, we have 2 races that we're going to go over that are happening today. If you're listening to this thing live, it is timely and you have still plenty of time to get involved on both of these races. The Makers 46 Mile and the Fantasy. You can play both of those on DRF Bets. Let's start off with the Makers 46 Mile. Now, I have to acknowledge that I have not checked scratches or changes other than what I know. So let's take a look at the field for the Makers 46 Mile. These are my odds on the far right side. Okay, not a morning line. This is what I consider a value line. And all I know right now, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing I know is that Conquest Enforcer has scratched. He will be running tomorrow in the Ben Ali at Keeneland. We're going to run them right down in order for you. The one Black Type 8-1, What a View 13-1, American Patriot 49-1, Bolo 6-1, Conquest Panthera 32-1, Calculator 24-1, Inspector Lindley 4-1 as we change over to the next page. The number 9 Heart to Heart 3-1, Bala Rocks 32-1, Western Reserve 49-1, and Bondurant 9-1. Fascinating race from a pace standpoint, even with the defection of Conquest Enforcer, because you have What a View drawn to the inside, drawing from post 2, and you also have the presence of Heart to Heart, who at this stage in his career, and I think forever, has absolutely needed the lead. If he doesn't get the lead, he's going to pack it in. He's not going to go on with it. What a View has at least shown, and Tyler Bass, his rider, has shown that they will grab and sit. If they do that, all of a sudden, Heart to Heart becomes tremendously difficult to deal with. And I think he is far and away the most likely, or he's the most likely winner, but I think he is a vulnerable favorite at the same time. Simply because if What a View doesn't grab and they go on with it and they head this horse, Heart to Heart's not going to go on with it. So I think he is the most likely winner, but I also do believe he's a vulnerable favorite. A live long shot, and I give you the air quotes for long shot because I think this horse honestly is going to get pounded at the windows. And that's Inspector Lindley. I was very impressed with Inspector Lindley. He's a horse that has always sort of been his own worst enemy simply because he's been up against it from a pace standpoint or a trip standpoint coming from the back of the pack. Well, his most recent start, we're going to take a look at this, the stretch run of the Tampa Bay Stakes. He was much closer to the pace, and you see him tip out right now between horses. He's got a beautiful ride from Johnny V. He's in the red cap and the Janny Silks, and he goes on gamely. And you know what? I can understand someone that wants to question the overall form of this race because Kaseki came back and was a bit disappointing in the run down at Fairgrounds. I thought this was a pretty good effort, and if this horse all of a sudden can stay within shouting distance of the leaders, like he did in the Tampa Bay Stakes, all of a sudden, this is an entirely different animal we're talking about here because he was always at the mercy of pace and trip. Now if he can get into the running a little bit earlier and he still has some sort of kick at the end, you're talking about a serious racehorse in great hands with Shug, obviously. Again, air quotes from me, live long shot, because I truly believe he is going to get hammered at the windows. I made him 4-1. He's my pick in the race. Inspector Lindley, a live long shot. Vulnerable favorite, but also the most likely winner, I believe, is Heart to Heart in the Makers 46 Mile this afternoon at Keeneland. Let's go to Oaklawn Park. They have a grade 1 race in the Apple Blossom this afternoon. I'm not talking about that because I think it's really a one-horse race. 2 if you want to really push it. But we are going to talk about the fantasy. This is a grade 3 for 3-year-old fillies. Let's take a look at that field. This is the final major prep for the Kentucky Oaks, right in order. Again, this is pre-scratches and changes. The 1, Chanel's Legacy, 13-1. The 2, My Sweet Stella, 19-1. Benner Island, 9-2. Drinks on Broadway, 49-1. Vexatious, 6-1. Kel Paso, 12-1. Dutch Parrot. I can't read, I'm telling you, it's been a crazy morning. Dutch Parrot, 24-1. Conquest Bandito, 12-1 as we change the page. Number 9 is Torrent, 13-1. Spooky Woods Import from California, 9-2. Conquest Slayer, 99-1. Ever So Clever, 13-1. I think a live long shot in this race. I don't have a super strong opinion, as you can see by the odds on the far right side. I think a live long shot is Conquest Bandito. This is a horse that needs to improve from a speed figure standpoint. Clearly, she's very slow right now, but she is built like a brick, you know what. She is just a giant filly. I think she has a little bit of tactical speed. I'm not suggesting she's fast enough to make the front, but I think she can sit off a little bit, and I think she'll come with a little bit of a run. She's going to be a big number, and she's far from the likeliest of win candidates, but she's in good hands, and I think she's an interesting play in here. Again, I made her 12-1. I think you're going to get every bit of that and then some in the fantasy this afternoon. Let's move on to Saturday afternoon. You have the Jenny Wiley. It's a grade 1, 1 mile and 16th at Keeneland Racecourse, our presenting sponsor. Let's take a look at that field. You want to talk about quality. You've got 8 truly quality fillies and mares in here. We'll take them right in order, and the headliner is the number 1. She draws the inside for her seasonal debut. That's Lady Eli. I made her 2-1. Goodyear for Roses, 13-1. Catch a Glimpse, 32-1. Dickinson, 9-1. Kitten's Roar, 49-1. Time and Motion, 16-1. Illuminant, 3-1. Kidura, 6-1. I think the most likely winner of the race, and I think everyone would agree, is Lady Eli. We're going to take a look at her Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf effort, where she was just pipped at the very end by a really nice horse coming over from Europe. You got Frankie aboard. I believe this was Queen's Trust, who comes and just gets her at the very end. It was a big effort from Lady Eli. She really had kind of a tough campaign, and I say tough not because of the races that she ran, but she only won 1 of her 3 starts. And for her career, she's less than a length beaten, or less than a length away combined from being undefeated through 9 lifetime starts. She's quality top to bottom. The only reason that I'm a little bit, not against her, but the reason I don't think she is just a slam dunk is because I think, 1, the layoff. I mean, Chad is as good as anyone at getting horses ready to go off the layoff, but mile and 16th I think is a little bit sharp. I think she really would excel a little bit longer, mile and an 1/8. Preferably a mile and a quarter, a mile and 3/16. So you'd be thinking of races down the road, I would imagine, like the Beverly D and bigger races along those lines. And obviously, hopefully, the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf at the end of the year. She is the most likely winner, but I think alive, and I'm going long shot because she's 8-1 on the morning line, but she's not going to be close to that, I don't think. I can only hope she is Illuminant coming in from Southern California for McCarthy. This is an interesting filly where she ran so well in this race last year, and I know she was beaten by about 6 lengths by Tepin, but it was such a big effort considering where she was positioned, and she didn't pack it in at the end. I actually think she wants more distance. I think she's better off at a mile and an 1/8 and longer, but she had a beautiful prep off the long layoff. Going down the hill, I thought she ran very well, and she beat some quality sprinters going down the hill. You had Miss Double Doro in there. You had Prize Exhibit. You also had Hill House High, who came back to win the Royal Heroine last Saturday out at Santa Anita. So that's been a live race already. I think Illuminant has a big shot in there to upset the apple cart. Again, I don't think she's going to get anything close to that 8-1. I made her 3-1. I think she is a primetime contender in the Jenny Wiley at Keeneland tomorrow afternoon. The final big Kentucky Derby prep of 2017 leading into the first Saturday in May. It's the Arkansas Derby. Let's take a look at that field very quickly. If we could, you got a full field of 12 signed down in here, pre-scratches and changes. Rockin' Rudy 13-1. Classic Empire, the 2-year-old champion, 7-2. Silver Dust 13-1. Petrov 8-1. Grandpa's Dream 99-1. Looking at Lead 12-1. Sonneteer 16-1. Rowdy the Warrior 99-1 as we turn the page to look at 9 through 12. Untrapped 12-1. One Dreamy Dude 99-1. Conquest Mo Money 16-1. And Malagacy 7-2. I think the most likely winner of the race is Classic Empire, despite the fact that I have both he and Malagacy at the same odds. We're going to take a look at his Breeders' Cup Juvenile. If he runs this race, if he runs the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he's going to win, and he probably wins by open lengths. Is he going to run the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Your guess is as good as mine. Is he going to run anything close to it? I have no idea. This is a horse that he's been... Bad actor isn't even doing it justice. He's just been kind of a jerk. The horse has been a proper jerk, where he hasn't trained. The one race he did run in was a disaster. He's been shipped around. He does what he wants to do. He has a mind of his own. I don't know what you're going to get from him. He's going to be just a very, very short price. I think he's the most likely winner. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I'm fascinated to see what we get from him. Is he going to take a step forward? Is he going to rebound and get back to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Or is he going to run another mid-80? And I'm almost wondering, I mean, if you want to just throw out some wild idea, I said it in the stakes preview. You can find all of the stakes previews, big in-depth coverage, video.drf.com. Maybe the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was the outlier. And he's actually more the mid to high 80 horse as opposed to the 102 buyer horse. I don't think that's the case, but we're getting to the point where maybe I can start to make that case. I think a live long shot in there, and this is me just bashing my head against the wall. Looking at Lee, I've liked this horse for some time. I think he is going to come on with a run at the end. Whether or not he gets the pace that he needs to really kind of kick on at the end, we'll find out. But looking at Lee, he's going to be another big number in there. I just want him to get some points and get into the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby, because I think he's a horse that maybe he can't win a race like that, but he's one that I'm looking, always thinking superfecta. Derby supers, you can always make a killing with those. He's one that I'm thinking maybe you can run third or fourth in the Derby, but you got to get the points to get in. Full show here, the Matt Bernier Show. We do this thing again. If you want to watch live, you have live.drf.com, you have livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you check this thing out in the podcast or you want to listen to it again, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. The new handicapping show, the weekend sort of preview show that we have here on video.drf.com, and the Daily Racing Form is out of the gate. That should be up later on this afternoon. Myself, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, you've got Nicole Russo, Jonathan Kinchin. I believe Craig Milkowski makes his debut this week for the Timeform US piece. It's a really good show, fast, hard-hitting, got all sorts of different good opinions in there. Fun show. Again, that's up every Friday afternoon. Video.drf.com as well as YouTube. You can also listen to that in a podcast version if you choose to. iTunes and SoundCloud as well. Big day of racing today, big weekend of racing, obviously with the Arkansas Derby tomorrow afternoon. The Friday formulator race today is the Makers 46 Mile. Illman and Beer took a look at that earlier on in the week. I wish you all the best of luck. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Keeneland Racecourse. Again, hopefully everything continues to go off without a hitch down there at Keeneland. The weather continues to cooperate because it's nothing but the best at Keeneland in Lexington, Kentucky. Best of luck this weekend. We will talk again next Friday on the Matt Bernier Show with progress reports, the final ones for the Derby. Without further ado, the Makers 46 Mile.